I just wanted to put the incident behind me, let my breasts heal and reconnect with James, allowing him to reclaim me forever. I would never stray again. 3 hours later, I was back in the shower in Monty's office getting myself cleaned up. I was weak and hooked.
Ace of Hearts-Storycast presents Anatomy of an Affair, Elaine's Side, a 1040 Shorty.
Hi, my name is Elaine Brooks. I am a 33-year-old mother of a 5-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy. My ex-husband, James, is an up-and-coming corporate attorney. We were married for 6 years. James and I met in graduate school. I was studying for my MBA and he was in law school. We graduated around the same time and soon after that we were married. When I got pregnant with Annie, I decided that I wanted to stay home and raise our children until our youngest started kindergarten. We planned for 2 kids, and 2 years after Annie was born, we welcomed our son Jamie. 3 uneventful years went by, and Annie turned 5. We had just celebrated Jamie's 3rd birthday. I was starting to think about planning my return to work in another 2 years. My husband was doing very well at his job. We were living very comfortably in a good neighborhood and didn't want for anything. Our relationship felt as strong as ever. Our activities included regular date nights and deep conversations. Our closeness was regular, intense, and very satisfying. To make a long story short, we were on the same page and I had no complaints. My husband and I are what I would call average looking. He is 6 feet tall, 220 pounds, black hair, brown eyes, and athletic. I am 5 foot 7 inches tall with brown hair and brown eyes. Giving birth to 2 children had turned my 125-pound straight body with B-cup breasts into a voluptuously curvy 155-pound body with double D breasts. I loved my mommy body and so did James. He couldn't keep his hands off of me and I had no interest in losing the baby weight. A few months later, James and I were discussing registering Annie for kindergarten in a few months when Annie came running downstairs asking if she could become a ballerina. She had seen a girl on her favorite kids' show dancing. After some discussion, we decided to enroll her in a 4-week introduction to ballet class that was about to start at our local community center. The class met on 4 consecutive Mondays. I agreed to take Annie there the next Monday to register her. As Annie and I were finishing up at the registration desk, I saw him. Or maybe he saw me first. His name was Monty, and he was there registering his daughter, Sonia, who was the same age as Annie. As the girls went tumbling into the dance studio to join their classmates, all of the parents gathered in the back of the room to watch and wait. Monty and I started chatting casually. I learned that he was 40 years old, lived just a mile from us, and was married with 3 kids under the age of 10. Monty's wife was a regional manager for a major bank and he was a stay-at-home dad. He worked from home as a sales consultant. Sonia was their middle child. They also had a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old, all girls. He was over 6 feet tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, and very athletic. He had a deep, soothing voice, like he could be a radio announcer or something. I couldn't figure out how he managed to hit the gym being a stay-at-home dad to 3 bouncing girls under 10 years old. I can't explain it, but as soon as I met Monty, I felt something. I am not one of the many women in these stories who had very few partners and was feeling unsure about what they may have missed when they were single. I had my share of boyfriends and casual hookups during my single life, and I was secure in my mind that James was the one all the way. I did not feel unfulfilled and had no need for additional validation. James rarely worked late. He treated me like a queen every day and worshipped me in the bedroom every night as if I were a goddess. He was an exceptional husband, father, and lover in every way. With all of that said, I still felt something coming from Monty. I could feel his piercing blue eyes watching me as I filmed Annie doing her first pirouette. Maybe it was the black leggings I was wearing with a simple white t-shirt that he was staring at. By that time in my life, I had gotten used to men admiring my aforementioned mommy curves almost everywhere I went. The grocery store, the bank, and so on. Most did it from afar and at a safe distance. Yes, a few also decided to try their luck in spite of the 4-carat diamond on my left ring finger. They were all quickly dismissed. I usually wore a minimizing bra to keep my breasts from taking over every outfit. As a matter of fact, I wore leggings and a t-shirt with a regular bra that day, because my minimizing bras were so constricting. I anticipated only mothers would be attending, so it would be okay if my boobs jiggled a little. For some reason, Monty's deep blue eyes on me made my heart race just a little bit. Before I could figure out what was going on, the 2 hours went by and the class was dismissed until the next week. A stampede of 35-year-old girls then came running out of the dance studio. I thanked Monty for the company as Sonia leaped into his arms and told him we would see them next week. As Annie and I drove home, I briefly reflected on my encounter with Monty. He seemed sweet and he was so handsome with his mysterious voice. Before I could dig too deep into that thought, we pulled into our driveway. James and Jamie were playing on the floor in the family room. We had dinner. Annie was chatting away about how much she enjoyed her class that day. After we had cleaned up from dinner and put the kids to bed, I initiated closeness with James. That wasn't anything unusual. We had closeness several times a week. But this time was different. I guess I should explain something else about myself. My weight and bust size were not the only aspects of my body that were greatly impacted by my pregnancy. I'm not sure how to say this, so I guess I'll just say it. The hormonal changes that my body underwent over both of my pregnancies caused my natural testosterone levels to spike a bit. As a result, my most sensitive lady parts experienced significant and permanent growth. To put it bluntly, I'm quite big down there. I get hard when I'm aroused, and I love to receive oral pleasure from my husband. And he knows how to do it better than anyone, and I finish harder than college-level calculus whenever he does it. I kept James' head between my legs for almost 3 hours that night, and then we had another hour of regular closeness before I finally calmed down enough to sleep. I finished at least 20 times that night and then slept like a baby afterwards. The next morning, after James left for work, I was sitting at the kitchen table thinking, still basking in the comforting glow of the previous night's satisfaction. Could it have been subconscious thoughts of Monty that inspired the extremely horny state that I was in the previous night? I shook the thought off and went about my week. The next Monday, we were back at Annie's ballet class, and again, Monty was there with Sonia. This time, Monty invited me to join him for coffee as the girls danced. The teachers asked all parents to wait out in the lobby as the class progressed. I saw no harm in it, so I accepted his invitation. Monty got right to the point. He told me that he and his wife were in an open marriage. He asked me if I had ever heard of the concept. I said yes, but I had never met anyone who actually was in one. He then went about to explain the benefits that he and his wife enjoy as open partners. She gets to date men she meets on her job or while traveling, while he prefers to date local women from his gym or other local gathering spots. He then quickly changed the subject, and we talked about our kids for the rest of the time our girls were in class. We also exchanged contact info for possible kiddie playdates. We returned to the dance studio to pick up our girls. At dinner that night, Annie told James about her new friend Sonia. I then told James about Monty and told him that we may be arranging a playdate for our kids. James said he was glad that Annie was making new friends. James always took care to pay more attention to Annie so she wouldn't feel left behind after her little brother was born. The next day, Monty texted me to arrange a playdate for our kids. We agreed to meet at a nearby park on Wednesday. As I got ready that day, I was just about to throw on my favorite pair of mom jeans and a sweatshirt when I subconsciously grabbed a pair of black leggings from my drawer and a simple t-shirt. I didn't do anything special. Well, okay. I ditched the minimizing bra and put on the only t-shirt bra I own. My girls were freer and had a little jiggle to them. Did I do that because I thought Monty would like to see me dressed that way? I can't answer. The date couldn't have gone better. The kids all had a blast. Monty brought Sonia and her siblings, and I brought Jamie. The kids played for about 90 minutes. As they played, Monty and I talked about everything under the sun. He was funny and fascinating to talk to. His deep voice had me mesmerized. For his part, Monty was literally undressing me with those deep ocean blue eyes. I have to admit, it made me feel different in a good way. I was having trouble putting 2 + 2 together. Here is why. While men seem to find themselves attracted to my mommy curves, I don't see myself as a sexual entity. Don't misunderstand, I love sex and intimacy, but my day-to-day being does not communicate that. I am a middle-aged mother of 2 who always wears a minimizing bra, and my underwear drawer is full of nothing but white cotton granny panties. They are comfy, and they are all I ever wear no matter what I'm wearing over them. I never felt like I did anything in my manner of dress or behavior that overtly told men that I wanted their attention. But none of that deterred Monty. The lust in his eyes was unmistakable. And here's the thing, it didn't make me feel uncomfortable at all. I actually felt stimulated. We said our goodbyes and went our separate ways. That night, James and I had intense closeness again. The next day, Monty texted good morning to me and asked me what I would be up to that day. Believing that he was trying to schedule another playdate, I told him I had to take my car to get its oil changed at the tire store in the mall that morning. He replied, okay, and that was the end of it. I got dressed in my usual mom jeans, college sweatshirt with an extra strength minimizing bra underneath, and readied myself to head to the mall. My mom came by to watch the kids for a couple of hours to give me a quick break. I got to the mall at 10:40 a.m. As I played on my phone while waiting in the customer lounge for my car to be finished, I heard an unmistakable voice. Is this seat taken? I looked up from my phone. It was Monty. He must have needed to get his car serviced as well. He, like me, had left his kids with a sitter for the day so he could run errands. We sat and talked for a few minutes before he invited me to lunch at the food court in the mall. Seeing no harm in it, I said okay. Monty made his move. He asked me if I would like to see his satellite office that his small team worked out of. It was a few miles away near downtown. I had previously expressed to Monty that I would be returning to the workforce in less than 2 years and was exploring employment options. Monty thought I might benefit from meeting his workmates and picking their brains about what they do from day to day. He said I could leave my car at the shop while it was being worked on and we could take his car. It seemed like a good idea to me and I agreed. The ride to Monty's office took about 15 minutes. We pulled up to a restored Victorian home in a commercial neighborhood. All of the old homes in that area of our town had been converted into office space. Monty unlocked the door and we walked in. It was a very cozy office space. I immediately noticed that nobody was there at the moment. I asked Monty where his workmates were. Upon looking at his watch, he remembered that the team was out in the field calling on clients at that hour. He told me he would show me around anyway, and I followed him. He gave me a complete tour of the property. He said he and his coworkers all work from home and use the office to meet clients. I noticed his little touches and light jokes as we walked. I didn't resist. He led me up a small flight of stairs to a lounge area that his team set up as a quiet space. The windowless room had 2 wingback chairs and a medium-sized leather sofa. A full bathroom with a shower was also on that level of the building. Before I could react, Monty had wrapped me in an embrace and started kissing me. My brain immediately sent a signal to my arms to push him away and my mouth to say, "No, Monty, I'm married." But then he slid his hand inside of my jeans and felt me. I was soaking wet and my lady parts were fully engorged. The sensation coming from my lady parts overrode the stop signal coming from my brain, and before another minute went by, we were naked on that couch and Monty's head was buried between my legs as he gave me oral pleasure. I had finished a few times before he reached into one of the coffee table drawers and pulled out protection. I pleasured him orally and then put the protection on him. My body was in full mutiny over my brain and was acting on its own. Monty and I then had intense closeness. He lasted for 3 straight hours before he finished, filling the protection up to the brim. I finished 12 additional times in that 3-hour window. Then we kissed deeply and passionately for a long time. As soon as the kiss broke, my rational brain executed a hostile takeover. I suddenly realized that I had been out of contact with everyone for almost 4 straight hours. It was about 4:30 p.m. I checked my phone. No calls or texts. I got lucky. The shop was closing at 5:30 p.m. I took a quick shower, got dressed, and Monty raced me back to the shop. I arrived just in time to collect my car and race home to beat James, who normally arrives at about 6. The panties I wore that day were literally soaking wet from my arousal juices, so I could not put them back on after I showered at Monty's office. I just balled them up and put them in the bottom of my purse to deal with later. I was going commando at that exact moment. I slipped in the back door and up the stairs to my room as I listened to the kids playing with my mom downstairs. I quickly took off my shirt, bra and jeans, and washed up with my regular scented shower gel. I had already laid out a clean bra, panties, t-shirt, and a set of leggings, which represents my normal house attire. I turned to check my bathroom mirror before I got dressed, and that's when I saw them. Monty had left a huge hickey on each of my breasts near the nipple. There would be no explaining the marks away as anything else. Bras leave marks in a certain pattern. There were no other explanations available. I decided right then that I'd have to hide my breasts from James until they healed. I hit Google and learned that the hickeys should go away in about 2 weeks. I'll have to use every woman's standard excuse to avoid intimacy, faking my period. Between PMS and post-period discomfort, I thought that I could cover about 10 to 12 days. As I got dressed, I thought to myself, my encounter with Monty was a one-time mistake, and I would just put it out of my mind. Monty wasn't one iota better than James at pleasing me. He wasn't even that different. He wasn't bigger or better at closeness. But I was excited to be close to Monty. It was exhilarating. I felt like I had pulled off a heist and made a clean getaway. I finished dressing and headed downstairs. Just as I hit the bottom of the stairs, the kids saw me and James came walking in the door from work. Would he notice anything different? We had a peaceful dinner, and afterwards I told James that my period was coming on. It worked. That will squash any requests for closeness for about 10 days. The next day, Monty asked if we could meet at his office. I agreed, but not for the reason Monty was thinking. I intended to tell him that what happened between us was a one-time mistake and that it would not be happening again. I was also going to tell him off for leaving those hideous marks on me. I asked my mom to watch the kids for a few hours and set out to Monty's office. I just wanted to put the incident behind me, let my breasts heal, and reconnect with James, allowing him to reclaim me forever. I would never stray again. 3 hours later, I was back in the shower in Monty's office, getting myself cleaned up. I admit it, I was weak and hooked. From there, I visited Monty's office once a week for 6 months. After threatening to always leave my bra on when I was with him, he quit making any kind of marks on my body. He loved my breasts and couldn't stand being denied access to them. I also reinstated intimacy with my husband after my breasts had healed. I always cleaned myself thoroughly after I was with Monty, and I always made him use protection. Monty never made me finish one bit harder than James did. The only difference was Monty was forbidden fruit. That made it fun and exciting. I convinced myself that what I was doing with Monty had no impact on our marriage. For 6 days a week, I was a loving and devoted wife who never failed to deliver all of my husband's physical and emotional needs. And 1 day per week, I would have Monty. My secret little pleasure. That routine went on for about 6 months. My life seemed to hum along. I was getting the best of both worlds. Annie started school about 3 months into my affair with Monty. I dropped her off and picked her up, except on Wednesdays when James picked her up. I told him that I needed Wednesday afternoons to research career opportunities. He agreed. Of course, I was spending that time at Monty's office. One day around Christmas, James texted me and asked me to meet him at the house at 4 p.m. He said he was leaving work early because he had a surprise to share. It was a Wednesday, and at the precise moment I received that text, I was lying on the couch in Monty's office with my eyes rolled back in my head as he gave me oral pleasure. I wasn't even thinking about my phone. It was 4:40 p.m. when I stepped out of Monty's office shower, which by this time, I had stocked with everything I used at home so I wouldn't smell any different after being with Monty. I checked my phone and found James's text. I got dressed and hurried home. When I arrived home, the house was dark. I walked in through the kitchen door. I didn't hear the kids or anything else for that matter. I called out for James. After an awkward beat or two, I heard him yell that he was in his office and to come there. I walk around the corner hallway to James's office. I pushed the door open and walked in. He was sitting behind his desk. He got right to the point. "So, Elaine, when were you going to tell me about Monty?" I immediately tried to deflect. "What? I already told you about Monty. He is Sonia's dad from dance class, remember?" "Yeah, I remember," he replied flatly. "But that's not what I'm talking about." He picked up a remote control, pointed it at the large flat-screen TV in his office, and pressed a button. On the screen appeared myself and Monty in all of our 4K glory with stereo sound. We were on the couch in Monty's office. That damn couch! His head was buried between my legs, and I was softly moaning his name in ecstasy. The timestamp on the video was from back in the summer. Anything that I was going to offer as a deflection had dissolved by that point. My mouth opened involuntarily. "How long have you known?" I said with a defeated tone. Without saying a word, James reached down and opened his bottom desk drawer. He pulled out a clear Ziploc bag and tossed it to me. Inside of the bag was a pair of my white cotton granny panties. For a split second, I was lost. Then, like a freight train, it hit me. I remembered the panties I was wearing during my first encounter with Monty. I remembered placing them in the laundry before I went to bed that night. Then James began to speak. "I found them in your purse that evening when I was looking for the spare garage door opener to give to your mom. They had your arousal scent all over them. I sealed them in that bag and replaced them with a clean pair that I wet in the sink. I had them tested. The secretions were 98% yours, but 2% came from someone else, a male. I pulled a string or two and a government lab matched the DNA to Monty. I will not tell you how. A private investigator has been following you ever since." That was in late June, James explained calmly. "How long, Elaine?" he asked. "You caught me after my very first time with him, James," I answered softly. "Why Elaine?" James asked with a defeated expression. "I really can't tell you," I answered. "He was just forbidden. No better, no bigger, no more skilled. Why didn't you confront me? You allowed my affair to continue and even maintained intimacy with me." "I had to be sure," he replied. "On one hand, I was hoping you would return to me on your own. Maybe I could have found a way to get past it. I gave you 6 months, Elaine. Plus, I knew you made him use rubbers, so no cross-contamination. But you weren't going to give him up. It was time for me to act. For Annie and Jamie's sake, this game has to end now. Is there anything I can do to save us?" I asked with defeated desperation. "At this point, you have chosen him, Elaine. I need to let you go. What we had is over." He took out a large manila envelope. "Elaine, these are the divorce papers. Please review them and get an attorney to advise you if you feel it necessary to do so. I'm offering a fair and trouble-free divorce. All assets split down the middle. We sell the house and split the proceeds. In exchange for me keeping my entire pension, I will not file under the infidelity clause, and all of the videos and other evidence that I have collected will remain private. Consider it, Elaine. Get back to me in a few days." "Oh, and Monty?" "I have turned over all of the evidence I have collected to his wife, Darlene. Did you know her father is Carmine Lagasse, the retired head of the Lagasse crime family?" "No," I answered softly through tears. "I'm afraid old Monty is going to wish he only had to deal with me once Mr. Lagasse is done with him. I really, really loved you, Elaine. I would have been your loyal subject forever, followed you anywhere and enthusiastically pleasured you daily until my last day on this earth. I promise that I will continue to be the best dad to Annie and Jamie as I can. They are at my parents' house. I will be staying there until I can find a temporary apartment. You can stay here until the house sells. I will bring the kids to you in 3 days. Please get back to me on the divorce agreement." "But James," I said with tears in my eyes before he interrupted me suddenly. "No, Elaine. Just no," James said calmly and with finality as he held up his hand. And with that, he stood up, packed up his briefcase, and left the house. He had already removed all of his other belongings earlier in the day. As he pulled out of the driveway, most likely for the last time, I sat in a living room bay window and cried for 2 hours. How could I have been so stupid? Monty disappeared the next day. He was never seen or heard from by anyone again. His wife had him declared dead 2 years later. James and I's divorce was smooth and businesslike. While he was always calm, collected, and fair in his dealings with me, I could see the deep pain in his eyes. It hurt him to have to let me go. My kids, now 6 and 4 years old, cried every day in the beginning, but they are now used to the week-to-week joint custody arrangement. Every day when I look in the mirror, I see a shell of my former self. I have lost 40 pounds and now weigh 115 pounds soaking wet. As my weight dropped, my breasts returned to their previous B-cup size. I cursed the woman staring back at me for disintegrating my picture-perfect life for a dumb, cheap thrill. James's new wife was me 2 years ago, 5 feet 7 inches tall with curves in all the right places, just as he likes. The kids love her. I should have never gotten into Monty's car the day we were intimate for the first time. He was a predator and I should have seen right through his game. I have to find a way to move on. Ladies, don't be like me. Montys are everywhere. When they show up in your life, just push them away.
The end. We hope you enjoyed this short story presentation of Anatomy of an Affair. James's story will be released soon. Please hit the bell if you want to be notified. As always, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and follow Ace of Hearts-Storycast.